There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. This is Beyond the Darkness. It's a brand new week. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Tim Dennis has the week off. He's feeling a little under the weather, so I'm making him take some time to himself to get healthy and happy. And joining me tonight is Jason Gowan. You might recognize him from Extreme Paranormal. He's also an Amityville horror expert and lecturer regarding that. He's been a part of our show in the past, part of guests on Coast to Coast AM with me as well. And he's here to sit in for Tim Dennis tonight, and we've got some exciting news about tomorrow night. Of course, tonight, Supernatural News and Parashare will be sharing paranormal encounters from our listeners. We'll be talking about supernatural news stories. And tomorrow night, we have the triumphant return. Jason, this is big news. People have been wanting this since we made the leap over to Beyond the Darkness. We're going to be back with True Crime Tuesday tomorrow. Did you ever get a chance to listen to that?
I did. It's one of my favorite things that you guys do. Everybody loves stupid criminal stories, and you guys always come up with the best.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun with that, but we've got a guest who's going to join us, Catherine Casey. Her book is called Possessed: The Infamous Texas Stiletto Murder, and we'll talk with her at the beginning of the show. Jason has agreed to join me in the second half of the show when we take a look at dumb crimes, stupid criminals, and, oh, Jason, I promise you're going to like the stories I've dug up for you tomorrow. We've got some funny stories. You lived in Florida for a while, didn't you?
I did, yeah, in southern Florida in the West Palm Beach, Boca Raton area.
Is that where you grew up originally?
No, I'm actually from northeastern Pennsylvania, but I was down there working on a television project and some radio stuff for a little while. And there was every day was it was a circus. You never knew what you were going to see when you left your house.
Oh, people have missed Florida man stories, and I promise tomorrow we've got Florida man and Florida women and Florida cop stories, plus a bunch of other really absurd, bizarre true crime, dumb criminal, stupid crimes for you guys to listen to. It's crazy. Wednesday, Wednesday, MJ Myers joins me, A Paranormal Life, Good, the Bad, and the Aliens. She's finally come forward to talk about her life with the supernatural and a lot of very strange encounters. On Thursday, we've got some Southern Scares, Savannah Haunts with Chris Allen joining us. We'll talk about places like Sorrel Weed House, Bonaventure Cemetery, Colonial Park, Moon River, and we're going to talk about the curse of Savannah, the hags and skin stealers. Those are just a few of the topics on tap for Thursday night. And Friday, we're back to round out the week, the Extra Dimensionals, true tales of alien visitors with a former FBI agent, John D'Souza. He'll be on hand to talk to us about some really strange cases that he's looked into and will be sharing in his new book. So we've got all that going on this week, plus a brand new Theater of the Mind. That all takes place on Friday. Saturday, I'm going to be hosting Coast to Coast AM, the best in overnight talk radio, filling in for George Norrie this Saturday. So I hope you'll check it out. Remember, you can find more information and stations, times, and places to listen to it by visiting coasttocoastam.com/stations. And there you're going to find all your information and how you can find a station in your area, or you can always stream it directly from my home station, KNSIRadio.com, KNSIRadio.com. That's where we broadcast Coast to Coast AM when I host, right out of St. Cloud, Minnesota. All right, Jason, thank you for agreeing to sit in for Tim tonight, man. It's a pleasure to catch up with you. What have you been up to?
Oh, I've been all over the place. I've been working with Greg and Dana Newkirk on their museum of the traveling museum of the paranormal and the occult. They just started a massive 3D scanning project of all of the artifacts in their museum, and I have all the equipment necessary to help them out with that project. So we've been 3D scanning Billy, the idol of nightmares, and he literally would move on the camera and like objects that weren't physically there in front of us were popping up on the screen during the scanning process.
Get out of here.
No, and it's all caught on video. Like we have video of the whole process, and his head would move to the complete other side. It would flip upside down, all kinds of crazy stuff while we were doing this. And so they have one of the live EVP recorders, so they did a recession with him, kind of explained to him what the scanning process was like, because when you're a several hundred-year-old African voodoo idol, you may not be up on the latest in scanning technology. And so they had a little talk with him about what it was, and he made it very clear he didn't want to be scanned. So, I mean, it was such a crazy process.
Wow, and you've caught it all on video.
Everything is on video, from it moving to the circular object. He would let us scan his back of his head, but as soon as you would go to try to scan his face, this circular object would appear in front of it, and you couldn't get the scan. And the scanner believed it was a physical object because it was trying to scan whatever it was, but there was nothing there, and it was very bizarre. And like I said, we did the EVP recording, and he said in the recording after, "I don't want to be scanned."
That's crazy. Are you guys going to be releasing that video anywhere soon?
Yeah, actually, yeah, because they've released it to their members for their museum already, but they're going to be releasing it to the public in the very near future. So if you go over to their traveling museum site, you'll be able to find all kinds of stuff about the stuff we've been doing with the scanning of the objects.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about that too. I mean, this is kind of fitting into the supernatural news realm. When you're scanning supernatural artifacts that are known to be haunted or cursed, what do you think? Does that actually, do you think you're kind of getting a clone of that curse or haunting by making replicas of it?
Well, weirdly enough, one of the scans of Billy moved randomly 3 different times when we didn't touch it. And this was after the Newkirks had already gone home, and it was just me here. And it would not be where I left him, and he would be in a different place. So one of the scans did show some kind of the 3D prints rather, did show some of the characteristics of the original, and it was very, very interesting.
Time to burn down your house.
Yeah.
There's no other answer. Burn it down. Wow, that's freaky. So how many different items are you going to end up scanning for them?
Well, it's going to be an ongoing process. We did 5 while they were here the first time, and they're coming back in April to do another batch. Some of their objects scanned really easily. Their Black Mirror scanned no problems. Their one of their Dybbuk boxes scanned no problem. But the voodoo drum that they had gotten, it was all kinds of off. Like it would flip upside down. It would start shaking. And you could see the object wasn't physically shaking in real life. And the scanners, it's a piece of machinery, so the camera doesn't lie. I mean, what you're seeing is what it's registering. It was a very, very, very interesting process.
Wow. All right, very cool. Keep us up to date with that. And how about you? Any new TV projects coming up?
I have one. I'll tell you as much as I can about it. You know me. I'm a superhero nut, and I got involved with the real life superhero movement. I started a company called Supernatural Supply, and so I'm building all kinds of gadgets with some other engineers. And we're building gadgets for real-life superheroes, Bigfoot hunters, ghost hunters. I am building a drone right now that is going to allow us, that will carry UV light. And so I'm going to be offering that to ghost hunters soon, so they'll have a drone copter that they can fly. And a production company has come to us, and they want to feature Supernatural Supply in a series. We'll see where it goes. I can't say too much more than that right now. Other than that, be watching for Supernatural Supply because it's going to turn up.
You go ahead and tell us more. There's just me and 250,000 of our closest friends listening. I promise it'll stay quiet just between us.
You know, maybe I better just stop right there. Don't pump the brakes.
No fun. All right, well, let's get started. We've got some supernatural news from around the world here, Jason. And to kind of catch you up on it, what we do is we'll read these different stories. Feel free to chime in if you have any thoughts on these, if you've had any similar situations. And during Parish here, I want to hear some of your encounters with the strange and supernatural. So let's dig into that. First story, though, I've got an 8-year-old boy in Idaho says angels helped him lift a car off his father's body to save his life. J.T. Parker was working on a Toyota Prius with his 17-year-old brother Mason and their father, Stephen, at their Sugar City home last summer. We were pulling the engine out of the car, and after we got it all jacked up, I climbed under there to take the axles off, Stephen recalled to EastIdahoNews.com. The one axle came off pretty easily, but the other side just wouldn't come off. When he went to adjust the second axle and move the jack, the car fell on him. JT was the only one around as Mason had gone inside the house minutes earlier with a cut hand. I yelled to JT on the other side of the car, "Jack it up, quick! Jack it up, quick!" Stephen said. I couldn't move at all. I was totally trapped, and then I passed out. It was all in his hands, and I thought, this is it. There's no way he can jack up this car because it took my 17-year-old son and I both to jack it up the first time. Mustering all the courage and strength he could, little JT adjusted the jack and began jumping up and down on the handle. He weighs about 50 pounds, the website reported. It was scary, and I didn't think I could jack the car up, but I just kept on trying, JT told EastIdahoNews.com. After 15 minutes of jumping up and down, the car slowly raised off of his father. Once it was completely off, JT ran to get his brother and called 911. All I remember is I felt peace, Stephen said. I remember seeing white, like a nice happy day. The clouds were going by and everything was happy and peaceful. His wife, Jody, arrived with the 3 Parker men waited for emergency responders. When I got there, I saw my husband underneath a car, Jody told the website. My heart just sank. I didn't know what to expect. Stephen was taken to Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center via helicopter in critical condition. He only suffered 13 broken ribs and no internal damage. It was just a miracle, said Stephen, who was home 2 days after the July 30th accident. After settling back to home, JT asked their son to jack up the car again, and he couldn't do it. Angels, JT said when asked how he got the strength that day. We believe my grandpa, who passed on, and my sister, who died, were helping him, Stephen added. Last week, the American Red Cross of Greater Idaho presented little JT with one of its 11 East Idaho Real Heroes Award for 2017. This whole thing was a miracle. There's no other way to describe it, his mother said. There's no way that little boy could have done that. I just felt that it was a responsibility we now have to tell people that miracles do still exist. So it's a nice feel-good story to kick off this evening, Jason. But this little guy, I'm looking at his picture, little fella, 50 pounds jumping on that. Now, I'm not a big guy, but a Prius doesn't seem like it'd be that heavy to lift to begin with. And if you've already taken
I was going to say, I was like, do you really even need the angels to lift a Prius?
You've already got the engine out of there and one of the axles. I mean, for God's sakes, did they have a couple of dead bodies in the trunk they're not telling us about? I can't understand why this thing would be heavy enough that they still needed help. But, that's a cool story. Very cool. All right, Tim and I, let me have you weigh in on this. Tim and I have a battle going on. What will occur first? Will it be zombie apocalypse or the rise of artificial intelligence and Terminator, Skynet taking us out?
It's the Skynet Terminators.
Really? You're going to side with Tim on this?
It's because the Amazon Echo we have already like orders stuff on its own that we don't tell it to do. And
wait, what?
3 times now shipments have, and I don't know if it's something we're saying or what, but like packages show up here of stuff we didn't order, but they're like house supplies, and we're like, I didn't order this, did you? And sometimes she'll be talking, and then you weren't in the room talking to her. So I think it's that only because of personal experience.
Oh God. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you 2 stories. You decide what's going to come first. I found just as many weird stories about people eating people. I think we're on the precipice of both, maybe simultaneously occurring. A rogue factory robot blamed for the death of a human colleague. This is a brand new story. A rogue robot has been blamed for the death of a woman killed in an accident at an auto parts factory in Michigan. Wanda Holbrook, who worked as a maintenance technician at the Ventra Iona Mains plant for 12 years, was trapped by robotic machinery, pronounced dead at the scene back in July of 2015. The 57-year-old's widower, William Holbrook, has filed a wrongful death complaint seeking damages from 5 robotics companies responsible for manufacturing, installing, and testing the robotics: Lincoln Electric, FlexNgate, Prodamax, Fanuc, F-A-N-U-C, is that how you say it? Fanuc? And
Fanuc, yeah.
Nashi. Wanda was working in either Section 140 or 150 within the 100 cell when a robot from Section 130 took Wanda by surprise. Entering the section she was working, the lawsuit alleges, she suffered tremendous fright, shock, and conscious pain and suffering when she was crushed to death, the suit claims. The robot from Section 130 should have not entered Section 140 and should have never attempted to load a hitch assembly within a fixture that was already loaded with a hitch assembly. A failure of one or more defendant safety systems or devices had taken place, causing Wanda's death. Lincoln Electric, Fanuc, and Nashi have been named in 2 additional claims of product liability and breach of implied warranty, Quartz notes. In her role, Ms. Holbrook performed maintenance duties on robots, which required occasional inspection. Holbrook versus Prodamax Automation Limited is currently awaiting trial. So there's one case where you've got
25 alive.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta start putting that in there. But now listen to this story. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. This is a brand new story. A landlady sobbed, "He's eating her," in a 999 call after seeing a cannibal killer attack a young woman in her hotel, an inquest heard on Wednesday. Hotel owner Mandy Miles unlocked the door after hearing screams to see Cirrus Yem, age 22, being attacked by her murderer in the room. An inquest heard Matthew Williams, 34, killed Miss Yem before committing an act of cannibalism on her body. The 999 call played to the inquest jury heard how Mrs. Miles, 50, rang police to get help after witnessing the incident in room 7 of her hotel. She said, "There's a lad in the room. He's actually eating her. It's awful. His name is Matthew Williams. He's in room 7. The tape heard Mrs. Miles sobbing as she said, "There was screaming and screaming. Oh my God, it's awful. I went into the room and he's killed her. Oh my God, can this be real? There's blood everywhere and it looks like a horror film." He was using the screwdriver and stabbing repeatedly. The 999 tape was played to the jury after closed-circuit TV images were shown of newly freed prisoner Williams going into the halfway house at the Sir Howie Arms Hotel near Caerphilly, South Wales. And I'm sure I'll get people pissed off about the way I'm mispronouncing these towns. They also showed Mrs. Miles' son Christian arrive with other guests outside the room. She then told him, "You are not going in there." She tells her son to come away from the door after informing the operator that she has seen Williams eating the person inside. The operator tells her that someone from the police will be straight there. The 999 operator informs officers at just after 1 a.m. that there's been a reported murder at the Sir Howie Arms Hotel where a man has attacked another person with a screwdriver and is eating the person's face. The 999 operator then said, "This is genuine." The operator asked to have all the people inside the hotel leave as a number of police officers would be arriving. The hearing was told officers arrived at the hotel 14 minutes after the 999 call arrest to Williams. Williams, 34, was released from prison just 2 weeks before he killed Miss Yem. He then died himself after being tasered by police. That sounds like a zombie to me. Who dies after getting tasered, right?
Yeah, exactly.
An inquest.
Hungry? Wait.
An inquest into both their deaths heard paranoid schizophrenic Williams was released from custody without any medication or supervision, despite being sectioned twice and complaining of hearing voices in his head. His mother, Sally Ann Williams, told the inquest that her son had previously been diagnosed with drug-induced schizophrenia after claiming he was a tree and saying his food was poisoned. She said he had been placed in foster care as a teenager after being caught stealing to buy drugs, and his drug addiction was set in after he returned from a young offenders institution. So, you've got two stories there. One where a robot goes out of its way to kill a woman, and you've got another murder where the guy stabs her to death and then eats her face. This is, these zombie murders, as I'm calling them, because it's, suits my purpose for the battle between Tim and I. We just read a story a week or two ago about another crazy guy, went out, attacked his neighbors, and when they got there, the cops got there, he's hunched over the man eating the guy's face. There was a story a few years ago where somebody all whacked out on bath salts. And again, for those of you new to this, no, they're not the things that you put in your bath, which I thought it was at first. It is a drug, a street drug out there that when smoked basically strips you of all of your humanity. And these people are attacking and eating people on bath salts. And they repeated cases of people having their faces chewed on and gnawed off by people on bath salts. So I gotta say, man, a couple of rogue robots here and there accidentally crushing somebody, killing something. Horrible news. Beginning of Skynet? I'm not sure. Now, we have on record multiple people eating one another. Now, do you want to reconvene on this notion, Mr. Gowan? What do you think is going to happen? Skynet or zombie apocalypse?
Okay. Well, I mean, you've presented some decent facts, so I'm gonna stay in a safe middle zone, and I'm gonna say that it's gonna be both simultaneously. I'm actually from where Time Magazine has labeled Meth Valley, so we have a problem here with it, and on several occasions they have found people just licking the sidewalk here, or naked running towards water. And I mean, it's just, it happens here all the time. So yeah, it could be the drug addictions that are cause a zombie apocalypse. So I can see both points.
Yeah, it's, something's going to go on. Something big is going on. That's all I know. There's definitely apocalyptic measures at hand. We slipped past old December 12th, 2012, the Mayan apocalypse. We've made it past 2001, the Y2K bug. We've made it through the bovine flu, the swine flu, the bird flu. I think what it's going to come down to is zombie apocalypse, and maybe it's the robots that release the zombie apocalypse to the world.
No, they could. That's just the way they are.
I love the fact, though, that your Amazon account is ordering things for you.
Yeah. We had a whole case of Swiffer Duster cleaner stuff just show up here.
Now, did you call to find out how this order was placed? Have you gotten anywhere on that?
They said that that it was ordered through the Amazon Echo with free Prime shipping, and we were like, "Well, we didn't do it." And they're like, "Well, you need to be more careful about what you're saying in front of your Echo unit."
Ooh, that's scary. See, I wanted to start my own Psychic Friends shopping network, where you call in with your credit card. You don't have to tell me what you want because I'm a psychic and I already know, and we're just going to send you stuff. And it sounds like the Echo is doing that for you. Maybe Amazon Echo gets a good look inside your home, Jason, and thinks, this guy needs to clean. I'm just saying, you've been judged, my friend, by artificial intelligence. How does that feel?
I feel smaller than usual right now, actually. I feel shame. Congratulations, robots. You've made me feel shame.
Well played, robots. Well played. All right, let's go to British Columbia, where a professor has spent the last 2 years hanging out with Sasquatch seekers, ghost hunters, and UFO enthusiasts, trying to figure out what makes them believe. Now he's ready to share some preliminary findings. Paul Kingsbury, a cultural geographer at Simon Fraser University, tells CTV News channel that he decided to study committed paranormal investigators after reading a newspaper op-ed decrying the rise of reality TV shows on ghosts and aliens, which haven't been proven by science. Kingsbury didn't agree with the op-ed writer and people who believe in the paranormal doesn't believe that people should be dismissed so easily. And he wanted to find out more. So far, his work has involved everything from Sasquatch conferences to UFO investigation websites to nights out hunting for ghosts. Kingsbury's study is only half finished, but he does have some preliminary findings that he presented Wednesday in Vancouver. Paranormal investigators are just like anyone else in terms of their socioeconomic backgrounds, education levels, or psychological well-being, he told the I gotta be careful I said that, SFU News before the lecture. Most of them have had profound paranormal experiences and simply strive to learn more, he added. They are driven by passion and do not charge money for their investigative services. Kingsbury said ghost hunters, also known as mediums, are not necessarily going to prove the existence of ghosts. Instead, he said, they're looking to give solace or closure to their clients. Kingsbury won't say whether he believes in any paranormal activity, but he did have at least one experience where he sensed something on the other side. He says he was in the basement of the Vancouver Police Museum with ghost hunters late one night in a room where cadavers had been drained of their blood. One group was using a spirit box, which is a radio scanner that goes through frequencies at high speed looking for EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, he explained. My sense was that there was a possibility of an intelligent entity on the other side. However, he added that he has asked to pose a question and he politely declined. I think that speaks volumes, he said. So that's kind of intriguing that you've got a British Columbia professor who's looking into this and is not a naysayer right off the bat. He wants to give this kind of a regular shake.
That's a refreshing change of pace, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of a nice little twist. I wasn't sure where this story was going to go. Well, and then we've got the other side. We go straight to the weird on this one, Jason. A prolific UFO hunter. A prolific UFO hunter who claims to have found a dead alien in NASA images on Mars has suggested CIA moles are out to discredit him because he's getting too close to the truth. How about that? The alien researcher who posts video on YouTube from his Scottish home under the name of StreetCap1 told expressco.uk so-called UFO hoax debunkers were really men in black, agents, who are there to discredit the work of himself and similar YouTube video makers. This week, I guess, StreetCap1 published a video on his channel entitled Mars, Large Weird Anomaly in the Distance. He said it may be a huge rock, but it could be a giant insect-like alien creature at the same time. It could be a rock or a giant alien insect creature. One or the other. Definitely narrowed it down to those two things.
There's no room for discussion. It's this or that.
Nope. It is, it's either going to be a rock, which it probably is, or if it's not, it is definitely a giant insect alien-like creature. The video was picked up by fellow UFO researcher Scott C. Waring on his website, UFOsightingdaily.com, who claimed it was a dead alien humanoid laying down that had been petrified in stone. Oh, Scott C. Waring, where do you come from? This guy gets more press than Donald Trump. I'm not kidding you. This guy is in every UFO story I come across. Hoaxbusters point out that these anomalies on Mars are just the results of a phenomenon known as pareidolia, when the brain tricks the eyes into seeing familiar objects or shapes in textures or patterns, such as rock surfaces or clouds. Now, I got a question with that one, Jason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the sentence, okay? These are just the results of a phenomena known as pareidolia, where the brain tricks the eyes into seeing familiar objects or shapes in textures or patterns. So, is this guy familiar with seeing giant humanoid bug alien insects?
I don't know. You'd have to take a look at his wife first.
Oh my gosh. I don't see it. You know what it looks like? I'm going to tell you. Hold on a second here. Let me copy this image, and I'm going to pop it over to you.
Okay.
I want you to just take a quick peek at this picture, because to me, what it appears to be, and I want to know what you think of it now before I taint your love. Do you see it on my Facebook? I just sent it to you.
Yep, I'm looking now.
All right. Does that just look like a a wooden stick figure having sex with another wooden stick figure?
It does actually. Yeah. It actually looks like an alien spooning with a George Foreman grill.
What the hell? Yes, I could definitely see.
If you look at it, he looks like he's looking towards the camera, and his arm is just lovingly gripping a George Foreman grill.
See, I'm seeing something totally different. I'm seeing ass up in the air and definite alien junk.
Of course you are. Well, and like I said, with pareidolia, you see things you're familiar with.
You see things you're familiar with. Touche. All right. God.
And that's why I also lovingly saw something spooning a George Foreman grill.
Oh, man, I got to keep muting the microphone when I talk to you. I'm coughing my brains out while I'm laughing. Witnesses of a Melbourne high school UFO sighting are speaking out. Hovering above a Melbourne high school, the site of 3 spherical objects defied gravity and all belief. For the first time in more than half a century, a panel of eyewitnesses hope to shed light on the enduring Aussie mystery and one of the world's most baffling UFO cases. Have a look at it, Jason. She's a beauty. Danger, danger, danger. Hundreds of people reported the bizarre scene as it played out above Westall High School, Clayton South, on April 6, 1966. Way to be on top of this story, guys. Authorities at the time warned locals not to discuss it, and critics have since written it off. But 5 decades on, those who saw the objects and a perfect circle of flattened grass left behind remain convinced. Joy Clark was among the students who ran from class and spotted 3 objects in the sky. Shall I do the voice for you?
Yes, I'd like that.
It took a while for me to comprehend what I was actually looking at because I'd never seen anything like that before, she said. I don't know why mine sounds like a nasty piratey version of it.
There's a dirty pirateness to that, yeah.
The year 8 student was one of the few to have had her picture taken inside the circle of flattened grass that the object apparently left behind. It was burnt and destroyed by Army officers the following day. Amateur detective Shane Ryan, who led an investigation for the documentary Westall 66, said the bizarre incident had plagued the minds of those who saw it. We live in an odd society where there is an interest in UFOs and the mysteries of life, but when a person comes forward to talk about an experience, often they find it's hard to be listened to or believed, Mr. Ryan said. This was an important case on the world stage because it was a mass UFO sighting in broad daylight. He said the objects were clearly identifiable and not what locals were used to seeing in the skies around Moorabbin Airport. At least one landed and was on the ground for several minutes. Whatever it was, there were very strong response from government to it, Mr. Ryan said. He said police, ambulance, and fire units all headed to the site, but civil defense and military units were also dispatched. And I have to apologize. I'm still fighting a little bit of an upper respiratory infection myself, so I can hear myself wheezing and sucking for air as I'm reading these stories. So please pardon us, and don't be afraid I'm going to drop dead halfway through this. Although that is still
I was a little worried
big
about
possibility. Pardon me. All right. Anyway, he said police, ambulance, and fire units all headed to the site, but civil defense and military units were also dispatched at the time. Air Force personnel reportedly knocked on the door of the school science teacher days later, warning him that if he spoke about what he saw, his career in Victoria would be over. Another student who was taken away from the scene in hysterics was never seen again. Now that's kind of chilling. Yeah.
That is chilling.
There was an absolute cover-up, said Mr. Ryan. The resolution of this story hinges on a deathbed confession. Mr. Ryan will be a guest speaker alongside the panel of witnesses assembled for the first time next month. Since 1966. I'm guessing in Australia.
Oh, I won't be able to make it.
Are you sure? Let me see here. It's I'll click on the link, and I'll let you know for sure. Because you can go find VUFOA.com. That's VUFOA.com to find information about this and to get tickets. The first big event for 2017.
They have regional Pokemon Go things that are only exclusive there. I would make it the twofer.
Yeah, look at you trying to work it into to get a chance to Pokemon Go. I think it's time you grow up, son. Speaking of aliens, Life star Jake Gyllenhaal absolutely thinks aliens exist, so nobody has to question it anymore. Jake Gyllenhaal has spoken.
I do feel better about it now.
Yeah, he says he believes in Martians. The 36-year-old actor who plays an astronaut in the new space-based sci-fi horror Life isn't convinced that little green men don't exist. That was a really weird sentence. I believe there's so much yet to be explored, the Oscar nominee told the Daily News. I think absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind whether or not they're friendly or already here. I think there's a lot left to explore. In Life, which opens Friday, a crew aboard the International Space Station has captured a sample from Mars, which backfires when the organism begins to grow stronger and smarter. The trapped crew must find a way to destroy it before it manages to escape and annihilate Earth. You know, this sounds vaguely familiar. I think it was a movie called Aliens, or Alien in the 1970s. Wasn't that what they dealt with as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think they were a little farther away than Mars, right?
Could be, yeah. To prepare for the role, Gyllenhaal met with astronauts and doctors who had been in space. He said he was blown away to learn about the physical and mental toll of spending months living in orbit. His research fell a little short, however, when it came to the questions about his film's plot. There's no way to read up on an alien attacking a spaceship, he laughed. Well, sure there is. Visit Scott C. Waring's website. He's got all kinds of stories like that. When he's not fighting aliens, Gyllenhaal has involved himself in more earthly pursuits. He's currently appearing on Broadway 8 times a week and getting rave reviews as painter George Seurat in the revival of Stephen Sondheim's Sunday in the Park with George. You've got season tickets to that show, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I have a whole season pass.
God. Is there good Pokemon there? Is that why?
Yeah, Central Park's loaded.
Central Park. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. You agreed to come hang out with me tomorrow for True Crimes, the Dumb Criminal Stupid Crimes section, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And again, for those of you that missed out and didn't hear this, we're going to do a special true crime episode tomorrow, and it's about a story called Possessed. It's the Texas stiletto murder, and this woman was kind of dabbling in the occult. It's a really strange story. We'll talk about that tomorrow, and then we've got some dumb crime, stupid criminals. But here's one just to kind of whet the appetite. Here's just the headline. Are you ready for this? Who would not be entranced by this? This sounds like a movie in the waiting. Killer who thought he was a werewolf admits murdering his vampire mom.
Wait, how is that possible?
A killer who describes himself as a werewolf says he killed his mother because she was a vampire, according to police. Cheyenne Smith, 29, was charged with second-degree murder after the body of his mother, Aurora Boyle Smith, was found in her home in Bellingham, Washington. The 57-year-old was found with defense wounds on her fingers and forearms, and a knife was found at the scene. Smith reportedly told police, "I stabbed her." Emergency services responded to the distressing call made by Smith in which he admitted killing his mother. During the call, he made a number of delusional claims, which included declaring he was a werewolf and his mother a vampire. Officers said he repeated these when officers found him in the bedroom of his mother's home. Bellingham Police Lieutenant Danette Beckley added that Smith had recently been hospitalized for drug-induced psychosis and has been released just days before the killing. The department tweeted that based on statements made by the son to officers, there may have been a sexual motivation for the killing. Now, this is our second story tonight that talks about drug-induced psychosis, and within days of being released, the person has murdered somebody. Maybe we need to start looking at that a little closer. Police.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, that's terrifying. However, police are still awaiting post-mortem results for any signs of a sexual assault. Smith appeared at Whatcom Superior Court on Monday. At the hearing, Chief Criminal Deputy Prosecutor Eric Ritchie said the defendant admitted to police that he's been using a lot of meth recently, which is the reason for the voices in his head. But that doesn't describe why he thinks he's a werewolf or his mother's a vampire.
I have so many questions because, I mean, she must have become a vampire after his birth because otherwise he would be a half and half breed, right?
A mudblood, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many questions.
Very twisted. Jeez, let's go on here. Okay, here's one that's making national and international news. As we head to Brazil, the president of Brazil, Michael Temer, says bad vibes or possibly ghosts have driven him out of his official residence. Speaking to Veja, a Brazilian news weekly, Temer said and his 33-year-old wife, Marcela, apparently found the Alvorada Palace, designed by the late Brazilian architect Oscar Niemeyer, spooky. I felt something strange there. I wasn't able to sleep from the first night. The energy just isn't good, Temer reported. We even started to wonder, could there be ghosts, the 76-year-old told Veja in an article published on March 11th. Only Temer's son, Michael Zinho, liked it. It was reported earlier in March that Temer had moved out of the glass-fronted Alvorada and returned to nearby Jaburu Palace, which was Temer's residence while he served as vice president to Dilma Rousseff, who was impeached back in 2016. The news of the move comes as Brazil struggles with severe political crisis caused by an ongoing corruption scandal into many of the country's political elite. How do you like that one?
Ah, wow. That's
good way to deflect, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't even know how to wrap my head around that whole thing.
Well, if you've got some kind of controversy going on, I guess the best way to handle it, right, is by claiming that your house is haunted and trying to get people to focus on that now. A Holy Grail site may have been found. 700-year-old cave used by Knights Templar was found behind a rabbit hole. A mysterious underground place of worship has been rediscovered after years buried underneath a farmer's field. The temple, once used by the secretive religious sect and believed to date back 700 years, was found behind a rabbit hole in Shropshire Countryside. It is thought the cave was used by the Knights Templar after their sect was literally forced underground by King Philip IV of France when he publicly burnt several of its prominent members at the stake. Yeah, that's one way to break up a team, huh?
Yeah, you.
Hey, what happened to Jerry? I think that King Philip, I think he burned him at the stake. Maybe next week we should hold the meeting underground instead of the bowling alley. What do you say? We're all in. Let's do it.
I think so. There is a beautiful rabbit hole that we can hold next week's meeting. Punch and pie to follow.
Punch and pie to follow. And I hate that rabbit. The religious group were rumored to have carried around the Holy Grail, most commonly identified as the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper, and that Joseph of Arimathea used to collect Jesus' blood when he was crucified. The incredibly religious, significant artifact has never been discovered, but there is a chance it may have been used by the Knights Templar in Shropshire. How about that? The Templar, which is a much feared military wing during the Crusades, was exceptionally influential and wealthy, leading the king to fear their power. King Philip, who was also heavily in their debt, so he set about rounding up its leading members and torturing them into confessions of treason. They were then ceremonially executed. Out of fear that they would lose the artifact during the suppression of their beliefs in 1307, it is believed the order smuggled the Holy Grail to Scotland, where it remains buried beneath Rosslyn Chapel. The Holy Grail could well have passed through Shropshire en route to its final resting place. However, a 2006 book claims that the Grail was instead taken to northern Spain and protected by the Knights Templar there. Either way, it's a fascinating cave. Man, is this a cool-looking thing.
I saw the pictures of it. It's pretty intense.
Right, you're just out mucking about on your property, you move a rock, and there's a giant hidden Knights Templar cave. That's got to be good for business.
Yeah. Well, the turnips ain't doing so good, but we got this here Knights Templar place now.
That's a good Southern accent. I like that. Every country has a South, I guess. A mother believes she has been haunted for 10 years by 4 mystery ghost soldiers who photobombed her reel of digital camera selfies.
Good heavens, we need to take a selfie.
Hurry up, get in behind her. Pose, boys, pose. Melissa Mangies, 32, claims a bizarre black and white photo of the paranormal platoon appeared among snaps of herself she took on a 45-minute motorbike trip back in 2008. Have you seen this picture?
I haven't seen it.
All right, it's coming your way. Hold on. because I like to deliver for my buddy, I'm always sending forth the pictures. But you can see it for yourself. It is pretty intriguing. Not that I want to totally mock her, but the picture's got some weird. I mean, those definitely look like, at least two of them look like faces. The other one looks like it's wearing a mask, and the other one just looks like one of those.
He looks like he's from Mortal Kombat.
Right, and then the last one, the fourth one, furthest one away, kind of looks like one of those Kontiki cups you'd get at like a tiki bar where you'd go get a fancy drink with an umbrella.
Yeah, and maybe one of the soldiers is holding that up. It kind of
could be. Yeah, they're all in like, hey, have a drink. Although the one in the front kind of looks like a football player, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks like he's wearing like the 1920s football helmets.
Yeah, and it looks like his arm is extended. Maybe he's just giving a thumbs up to the camera. Anyway, the pharmacy technician had taken the selfies while riding on the back of a friend's motorbike for the first time from her home of Cumberland, Maryland, to Pennsylvania. But she claims when she sat down to admire her photos later the same evening, she was stunned to be met with an eerie gray picture of four stern-looking ghouls in regimental dress. Mum of one, Ms. Magnus, who believed the ghosts could be soldiers from a bygone era, is now desperate to discover the identity of the spooks. She said, I'd probably taken about 5 or 6 selfies of me wearing the helmet on the bike. I didn't think anything of it. Later that evening, I looked through the photos and I saw this picture. The figures were just like, there was this camera. I was like, oh my gosh, I definitely didn't take that picture. I have no idea how it got there. I was on my own at the time, and it freaked me out a lot. That was the whole picture. It wasn't like it was on top of something else or anything. It was just there in the middle of the selfies I'd taken. I've always thought that they could be soldiers. At the back, there's kind of an evil-looking one. That one looked the scariest. I'm not sure he's good.
I'm not sure the face. It looks like it just didn't look like a face to me, but actually, some of them definitely do.
Here, I'm going to give you a little bit of another close-up of it, because when you do look at the close-up of this one, you can see it is more of a face, but it looks like somebody took the picture as his head was turning. Do you see that?
Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah, in the picture, yeah, I can see it now.
Now, in that far-away picture, it definitely looked all kind of like a Kontiki mug he was holding up, but this, the close-up definitely looks like maybe just a face. It almost looks like Edgar Allan Poe.
I can see that, yeah, or like the claymation Mark Twain.
Yes, claymation Mark Twain or Edgar Allan Poe. We've definitely narrowed it down to that or a rock.
Or an insect like alien.
Or an insect alien. Wow. So that's what she thinks she's got in that picture. Interesting, nonetheless.
It is interesting, yeah. The one the most compelling is obviously the one that looks like it's wearing a football helmet. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, and that one's really up close. Very interesting. All right. Well, one last final story here, for Supernatural News. I always like to talk about our friends when they're back on TV. Amy Bruni and Adam Berry are set to return for season 2 of their hit paranormal series Kindred Spirits on TLC, and you can be in it. Production company Paper Route Productions are currently taking submissions for families to feature on the show, where ghost hunters Amy and Adam help people tormented by strange going-ons in their homes. The first season of Kindred Spirits hit our screens last fall and proved so popular that TLC has signed Amy and Adam up for the new season, which is currently in production. It sees the pair visit families who are experiencing paranormal activity at home. Using state-of-the-art techniques, they capture evidence of strange presences and help families get closure. Often the spirits involved are family members who've passed away. If you wish to be a part of that, you can just look up Paper Route Productions website, and you can fill out the form there. Paper Route Productions is the company that's doing that, and they can help you with the finding the link and submitting your story. Are you okay? It sounds like somebody just knocked you out.
Yeah, the door opened by itself. I panicked. I'm okay, though. Everything's good.
All right, good deal. We'll come back. We're going to do some Parashare, Jason, and I want to hear some of your encounters, too. It's been a while since you've visited with us. Our new listeners would love to hear from you. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, it's Parashare next on Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
right, we're back. It's a Supernatural News Monday night and Parashare, and it's time for Parashare. We want to hear your stories, the strange and supernatural that you've lived through. We're going to share those stories in this next segment, but Jason Gowan is my special guest this evening, sitting in for Tim Dennis, who's out ailing. We made him take the week off to get healthy and start feeling better, so again, that's what's going on this week. Tim will be back with us in studio next Monday. He's going through a rough time, folks. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Always fighting some infection or cold because of his lowered tolerance because of the medications and surgeries he's been going through. So just keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and we appreciate that. But Jason, thank you for sitting in for Tim tonight and tomorrow with us on on Stupid Crimes and Dumb Criminals segment.
Wow, thank you for having me. Anything to help you guys out. I'm hoping Timmy gets feeling better as fast as possible. I miss that guy.
Let's hit people up with one of your favorite stories. Let me hear one of the scariest encounters you've ever had. I know you've been out investigating for how many years now?
Since 1998.
1998. And what would you put down as the creepiest experience you've ever had?
For me, hands down, after George Lutz from the Amityville Horror passed away, he had kind of given me some of the family's 5 private photographs to go out, and one of the things that was most important to him was getting the story out there and telling what happened to his family and, kind of dispelling the rumors that it was a hoax.
Right.
And anytime I did, and to this day still do that lecture, there's always some sort of backlash. And one of the times after I gave the lecture about Amityville, I was home. This was back in the MySpace days, and I was up, and I saw this disfigured little boy standing in the corner of my room, just staring at me. And I pretended at first, I was like, nope, that's not real. That's not happening. I don't want that to be happening.
Right.
So, and when I looked immediately towards it, it disappeared. And then the next night, it appeared again. And several nights this kept happening. And I'm like, okay, this is a problem. I'm not okay with it. One of the last nights, all of a sudden he appeared in the center of the room. He was no longer in the corner. He had moved closer.
Oh, boy.
And he ran straight at the bed. And I let out what I can only describe to you as the least manly scream ever. And I tried to push myself out of my window like I was just panicking and flailing. And he got to the bed and he just disappeared. Now, at that point, this is like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm the only one awake. And my cell phone starts ringing. And I look down, and it is our house phone calling my cell phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I know I'm the only one up. And I foolishly answered the stupid phone. And when I answered it, it was George Lutz's answering machine, and he had been dead for a year and a half at this point.
Get
or
out
2
of
almost.
here.
It was his answering machine that they had deleted. That answering machine message, wasn't even there anymore. And I no longer had his number calling from my number. And then it just went to, and then it disconnected the phone. And I just, several times after that, it would be my house phone calling, and I would answer, and it would be that answering machine message, because I would answer it because I thought it was my grandma. And so to me, that was the most earth-shattering, because it just kept happening, and I had no way to make it stop.
Oh, my God, man, that's horrifying. Did you ever see that tormented little boy again?
I did once after I had done, you're familiar with the TV show Supernatural.
Right, of course.
I was doing some lectures on Amityville for them at their fan events where they get kind of like Walker Stalker Con, but with Supernatural cast. And I did a lecture there with somebody who knew the Lutz family, and that night, in the hotel room with 3 other people in the room, the little boy appeared in the room and let out what I can only describe to you as just this horrible scream, and then it never again.
Wow. In front of other people?
In front of other people.
How did they react to that?
My friend got another hotel room that night. He went downstairs. He's like, no, sorry. I love you, man, but no, thank you.
End of story, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
So at the end of the night, there were 4 of us in the room, and it ended up my now ex-wife and me in the room. And she's like, I'm only staying here because I'm legally bound to by marriage.
Because I'm legally bound to. That's awesome. All right, we've got, we'll get some more of Jason's stories as the show progresses here, but here's an email. Dear Dave, I love your podcast and have listened since you appeared on Talk is Jericho. I had a Bigfoot encounter a couple of summers ago at my grandparents' house in Bath, North Carolina. It was about 11 p.m. in early June. I'd been out in the woods for an hour or so. I was about to head back when I heard a snap behind me. Now, I was on the wood line, and this came from a cornfield behind me. I did a whistle and got a response. A 100-pound rock came flying at my head from the wood line, not the cornfield. I believe this was a dangerous variety of Bigfoot called the Grassman, which resides in Ohio but migrate. Keep up the good work, and I hope this ends up on Parashare. Your friend, Nolan. Well, thank you, Nolan. Great story. I had a totally different experience with a guy named Grassman, but that was my college adventures. Threw a 100-pound rock at him from the woods. Oh, what do you think of the Bigfoot experience? Do you believe in that?
I want to. I've never had the experience where I'm 100% sure that it does, but I want him to be real.
Yeah.
So I like to hear those. I like to hear stuff like that where there's a tangible thing, because I've never had that. But
well, we've got a story here. Now, what always drives me crazy on the show is when we get listeners who will send me a story and then they're like, "Oh, and I've got a lot more stories like that. Let me know if you ever want to hear them." We want to hear them all. So I love when people send us a long email, and that's what we've got coming up next from Alexis. Hi, Dave and Tim. I've loved listening to your show and Parashare stories that people send to you. The last email you got from me was from the I Knew a Murderer theme, and as promised below are paranormal and Zozo demon stories. Read as much or as little as you were up for. This is a long email. Pre-roll. I lost my father to cancer, multiple myeloma, when I was 14 years old. For 8 horrible months, my mom, brother, and I watched him deteriorate from the strong, compassionate man we knew into a shadow of himself. Oh, that's horrific. I'm sorry about your loss. First story starts off haunted tea kettles. Way back, before my brother and I were born, Mom and her family immigrated to the Bronx from Glasgow. After 2 weeks in this country, she met my father, and the two of them were together until 1993 when he died from the illness. Mom is the type of person who can drink scalding hot tea when it's over 90 degrees in the shade. After 9 or 10 at night, every night, Dad would make her tea, and the two of them would snuggle on the couch in their room. Since the tea train was always running in our house, investing in an electric kettle was a need, and Dad was the one to buy most of our kettles. During the worst of his illness, he was bedridden, but a short time after the funeral, 2 things began to happen. First, he started to visit me in my dreams on occasion, and every night around 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., the kettle would click, indicating that the tea was ready. The last tea kettle he had picked up for the house kept working for 12 years after he died. Without fail, it would click between the hours of 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. every 30 to 45 minutes, the time it took for Mom to finish a cup. On any of our birthdays, it would click during the day. I remember being in the kitchen on one of my birthdays, and Mom wished me happy birthday. I thanked her and picked up the kettle at the same time, and it pinged audibly twice in a row. Eventually, the kettle stopped working, but each new kettle that we buy, whether it's my brother, Mom, or me, it soon starts clicking on its own, but less so these days. When I moved out on my own, I was going through a very tough time. I had a stovetop kettle, not electric, and during my darkest days, I could hear the spout flap opening and closing around the same time of night that I knew he was telling me, "I'm here and I love you, don't give up." My mother has spent some time in London for a job shortly after the 2003 economic crash. It hit her industry before the rest of us felt it in 2008, and the kettle that she brought there also started to click at the same time of night. Now, dream meetings. This is the next part of the email. When Mom came home from the hospital and told my brother and me that Dad didn't make it, my mind wiped a bit and time got jumbled for me. I know it was only about a day or two after his death that my dad came to see us before whatever happens next. It was the middle of the night and the entire house was still. I sat up in bed and looked down the hallway. My dad was leaning against the bedroom door jamb and waved shyly at me. I motioned for him to come in, and he sat at the bottom of my bed. Being a fairly powerful lucid dreamer, I knew the feeling that my dreams have and the feeling that my waking world has. This feeling was in between. I knew for sure I was awake. The only thing I could manage to say was, "So, how is the food up there?" Because I assumed that he was in heaven and hospital food is always crap, especially what they served him. He chuckled, but there was no sound. When he put his hand over my eyes, I started dreaming. It was the watch sequence from All Dogs Go to Heaven, my favorite film of all time, where Charlie is dancing among the clocks and trying to catch his watch to go back to Earth. The next morning, I told my mom about this, and she went a little pale. When I asked what was wrong, she said, "I was just telling your aunt that I thought I saw something white and shimmery go into your room last night, but I thought I was just seeing things. Apparently, my granny died. She visited my brother in the same way. I dreamt about Dad other times. He would be spending time with me or giving me advice or just checking in. Again, these dreams had a different feel, and I always knew if it was a visit from him or just a regular dream about him." Yes, anchovies is how this story begins. The weirdest message I ever got from Dad was during a trip to Cape May. My husband and I wanted to get away for a weekend and picked a bed and breakfast at the southern end of New Jersey. We didn't know they were holding a psychic weekend, but when the hostess let us know, I knew I wanted to be at that night's seance. He was supposed to connect with the residents' ghosts of the B&B, but it turned into a John Edwards situation with everyone's dead relative coming through, one of them with a non-corporeal cupcakes, no less. He started describing a man that had a connection to me and said, "Ew, he's holding up these stinky little fish and says, 'You know what that means.'" I did. When his kidneys had tanked the first time, Mom forbade salt and sodium-rich food from the house. Dad's health was really great for a while, but his sneaky skills got so much because he tried to sneak a jar of anchovies past the warden. Well, she found them and she let him have it. I swear the neighbors heard that tongue lashing, and I certainly never forgot it. I knew it was him for sure. He had a weird sense of humor that he passed on down to me. I never told anyone outside a close circle of friends about the story, and I never put it on social media, so it would have been impossible for this to come through as something researched or a cold read, like one of the other guests there said. Who brings anchovies to prove he's your dad? Not Maury Povich, I guess. Great ending on that one. And then we've got a couple of Zozo stories. Pre-roll in this one, he says, Zozo experience, a play in 4 acts. The pre-roll, some extra senses on the maternal side of his family. My granny used to read tea leaves and up the family line. I think we had some psychic-leaning women. I can use a spirit board and read tarot cards with some proficiency when I was younger. I would use the board frequently, sometimes by myself or with friends, but I never ran into anything sinister until college. I have a feeling that since so many close friends of mine died in the house, Grandma, Granny, and many years later my dad, they acted like spirit bouncers for our home. I only ever had bad experiences when I used the board outside. The meeting. In 2001, a college friend of mine took me on a vacation with his family. One of the cousins admitted to having sensitivity and prophetic dreams, as well as connecting with what she thought was the spirit of a young boy that called himself Zozo. The red flag instantly flew with me, even though I knew nothing about Zozo at the time. Sure enough, out comes a Ouija board and request for me to play since that planchette flies across it when I touch it. The rainbow pattern was the first thing to show, spelling out the name Z-O, Z-O, Zozo. I can't remember exactly what it was spelling out during the session, but I do remember feeling in danger and getting ominous messages of accidents and other bad things. I also remember they never closed the session, and it was from then on that things got weird. Hanging around. It wasn't long after getting back from the trip that I never felt like I was alone. This stretched beyond my feeling and my family members around me. That energy was warm and fleeting. It showed during the holidays or when I was feeling low. This new feeling was creepy and clingy. My stomach frequently turned for no reason and my anxiety would spike. My college friend started bringing the board with him when a bunch of us would be doing assignments or just hanging out, and the creepy feeling was always connected to the board. I ended up throwing out mine because I couldn't stand to use it anymore. The rainbow pattern was showing up, and it was just not the same. In one of the studio rooms at the school, I felt someone jab me hard in the back of my neck. The room was closed, and I was the only one in it, but that creepy feeling that I was so familiar with was clinging to me like wet dog smell. Banishing. After a few years of nonsense, I finally chased it out, or at least away from me. I had started studying Wicca, still ignorant of the Zozo demon though, and part of the study was opening up my sensitivity. One day, home alone, I felt a presence so solid that someone could have actually been in the living room with me. I reached for the salt shaker and the sage, lit it up, and started yelling at this thing to get out. There was no Impala or rock salt shotgun on hand, so I improvised. I went from room to room wielding the burning herbs and salt like weapons to clear the thing out for good. I remember feeling a roaring sound or sensation, not sure which, in my ears, and through my body as I did this. When I made the final round and shouted some choice four-letter words, everything went quiet. There was finally peace around me, and that creepy feeling was gone. And yet, about mid-2016, in the apartment my husband and I are renting now, I began to feel that same presence, but this time it was accompanied by shadow figures I would see out of the corner of my eye, and an unsettling feeling when looking in the mirror, as if it wasn't really me looking back. I was having night terrors of something impersonating my dad, wearing his face, and then laughing at me when I figured it out. One night, I swear, something reached down from the ceiling and grabbed my hair. I was sitting up screaming when my husband shook me awake. I just knew someone in the building was screwing with a spirit board just by the way the energy felt and the smell of sage in the lobby about a month prior. Again, I grabbed my sage and salt as well as my Wiccan broom and not only blessed the place but scoured it clean of clutter and dust and a trail of salt around the inside of the windowsills. I haven't seen the shadows since, and the next time I do, I'm loading up a super soaker with holy water and drenching the place. I love your show and hope I get to one of your events. Thanks so much for your podcast. It's amazing. All my best, Alexis from the Bronx in New York. Alexis, thank you for sharing your stories. That's creepy. What a bunch of activity going on. And it's great to have the parental contact and feel like your family's there for you. But the Zozo phenomena, what do you feel about that? Are you familiar with that and know what that story is?
I am familiar with it. I have never had an experience with the Zozo phenomenon, but I find it's fascinating whenever anybody does. Like, I've never had a personal experience. In fact, the only time I've ever really used a Ouija board is, do you remember at Phenom a few years ago when we did the mass,
Oh, right. We did the big Ouija board experiments, and we were trying to
that was the only time I really spent any time with the Ouija board at all. So that was kind of my only thing, but I've never had a Zozo experiment myself.
All right, let's go back into a couple more of these stories. Okay, so last time I emailed you guys, it was in essence of our cabin in Lee County, Kentucky, where the crew Finding Bigfoot filmed an episode. This story comes from there as my brother experienced it and as he told me. It was around 3 p.m. The wind was calm, and it was in the middle of hunting season for deer. As my brother and cousin sat waiting for their trophy buck walk by, they heard something that no other animal in the woods as we know it could make. It was a genuine whoop, they say, and it wasn't very far away at all. In fact, they told me it could have been a full mile behind them. This, understandably, led to a shortened expedition, and they were back at the cabin around 5 p.m. 2 hours, as any hunter can tell you, is a pretty short hunt, but the shake it gave them definitely made it seem like a good idea to leave early. Me and our younger cousin were about a mile away from their spot. We arrived back to the cabin at around 8:30 p.m., not knowing what had happened. They blamed us for the sound they heard, but we have no involvement whatsoever. As the night turned darker and colder, we were trying to reason what happened, but we couldn't come up with anything conclusive and sound. This made my brother and older cousin anxious and even more curious than they were right after they heard it. They decided to go out and look for the source of that sound, if anything, just to hear it again. And sure enough, they struck gold, not once, but twice in the same day. The next email will have the recording of what it is they heard out there. Keep in mind, this place is private land and has no immediate neighbors. So, if this was another person, they must have been far from home in 20-degree weather. Knowing that makes me still question just what it could have been. It'd be great to hear your guys' thoughts about it. Thanks for reading. Well, Tori, it would help if you sent it all in one email. I don't know how to respond to that, but I'm not a big fan of the outdoors, Jason, for just that reason. And if I'm out in the woods and I hear a whoop coming up from behind me, you're going to have to find a place to bury my body because I'm dropping dead right there. Or I'm going to Scooby-Doo my way through every tree and barn door. You're just going to see the outline of me as I'm trekking through the woods to get the hell away from that.
Like Dave and I are out of here, man.
I couldn't do it, man. The idea of being out in the woods is one thing. There's enough natural creepy stuff out there that'll kill you. But the idea that there's some giant bipedal 8 to 10 foot tall creature that can tear you in half, No, I'm done. Hey, Dave
Yeah,
and Tim. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't like the idea that there's something that, like, you have zero way of battling at all if it comes at you.
Well, I don't know. You could always try to kick him in the nards.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Werewolf had nards in the movie Monster Squad. Why wouldn't Bigfoot?
He did, yeah. And, no.
Bigfoot comes running at you and you grab a stick and just jab him in the balls.
He might even just be like, you know what, that was clever. I'm glad you did. It hurt and that sucked, but I'm going to let you go because that was pretty good.
Why does he sound like an old Jewish man? That was clever, not bad. Good point. I like that you hit me with a stick. Hey, Dave and Tim. I'm a 24-year-old social worker that spends the majority of my workday driving to people's homes. So finding your podcast was a godsend. I've enjoyed your podcast as I'm coming into this new knowledge of my abilities. Growing up, my mom told me about her paranormal experiences that happened throughout her life. I was always a little jealous because nothing ever happened to me. Well, that was until I worked night shift at Amazon. We may get the answer right here, Jason. Maybe this guy knows what ghosts are ordering from Amazon and sending out to your house.
Hilarious. I forgot to mention this when earlier you had a story with the name Alexis in it, and it's right next to me. So every time you said it, it would glow blue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very
so
cool.
She thinks you're saying Alexa, and she did it again.
Yeah. See how that works? What a surprise. Alexa, order Jason a 12-inch... Wait, what?
No. I just had to plug it.
What? I was just going to get you a 12-inch binocular set so you could go out Bigfoot hunting with me. All right, let's get back to this.
Thank you.
Yes. I was working the line, placing boxes of shoes into more boxes and sending them on the conveyor belt. Along the conveyor belt, there were about 20 stations for people to stand and work. Well, there were two people on my line, me and this man, that gave me the creeps. I would mention that I have always been able to pick up on when people are just bad people. Anytime this man would work my line, he would choose to be in the station right next to me. Well, he did it again. When there were 18 other stations available. What a weirdo. So, because I like my space, I left for a bathroom break and switched to a different station when I come back. Here is where it gets strange. I looked up from my work and down the line. What I saw was this man just standing at his station staring at me. Ooh, that's no good. He was just staring at me. He had no animation in his face or body, just glaring at me. He had completely black eyes. Those dark black eyes were pure evil. It looked like he was projecting darkness all around him. I immediately took off for the bathroom and started to have a panic attack. When I came back, he was completely fine, like nothing had happened. The next day, he came to my station and asked why I always seem to move stations when I am on the same one as him. I just shrugged my shoulders as if I had no idea what he was talking about. Luckily, this job was just a summer job in between college semesters, so I quit the next week for school. I've researched the black-eyed children, but it doesn't seem like this fits. I have grown up watching the show Supernatural, which portrays demons having black eyes. I'm wondering if there's any truth to the Hollywood drama. Was this a demon? This man was also an African Muslim. I do not know any folklore about the Islamic faith, but could there be some sort of paranormal being from different religions of this origin? Well, yeah, that would be like the jinn, I think. Isn't that what Rosemary Ellen Guiley talks a lot about? The jinn would maybe be part of that? Yeah. And they like to play these demonic games and taunt and do horrific things. So that might be what you're dealing with. DJINN. It's called the Jinn. This was only the beginning of my paranormal journey. I've always had lights flicker around me or completely turn off when I am near and turn on when I leave. Last week while grocery shopping, I walked down the frozen food aisle and all the lights were on. But as I walked from section to section, the light would turn off as I'm standing in front of them, turn on as I walk by, like something straight out of Stranger Things. Since then, I've helped my grandfather and grandmother pass on, each coming to me in visions with things they needed me to tell my parents before leaving. I've researched this, and it seems that I am starting to hone in on being a psychic medium. I have had a 1920s man pop his head out behind a wall as if he wanted to talk. I immediately jumped off my couch and said, Nope, I'm not open for business. Please leave. Just last night, I'd seen a shadow person at my doorway. I had no feeling of evil, sadness, or doom. It, however, seemed like it wanted to talk to me. I said, I do not want to talk, and it left. I share these other stories because I'm hoping you will find a guest that can discuss how people discover their abilities as well as how to go about this journey. I am truly lucky to have a parent that believes in me, or else I'd feel crazy. Thanks for the show. Keep it up. And that's from Melissa in Brandenburg, Kentucky. Melissa, let me tell you this. There's a great book called The Gift, and it's by Echo Bodine. She's a local medium psychic here in Minnesota, but she is a great author and a great teacher. Pick up her book, The Gift, and I think that'll help you get on the right path for figuring out this ability and these abilities that you have. Jason Gowan, our special guest, filling in for Tim Dennis this evening. Let me ask you this. We heard about one of your creepier experiences. We've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Have you got another tale or two you can share with us?
Sure. I just recently I was working, as I said, I've been working with the Para Museum, and we did an investigation in the haunted church where I had been previously thrown up against a wall. It was years ago. It was kind of what put me on the path to dealing with things the way that I deal with them now, with humor and, kind of the lightheartedness. And we did another live EVP session, and we were talking to it. And it started calling people who had been there with us like 15 years ago by name.
Wow.
And one of the weirdest things that it said is it said it was responsible for my marriage failing. And that I have no idea even how to respond to that, because for something to be so bold as to say I caused your divorce, and it's all on a live recording, and I'm just like, it's happening in real time. It was just a terrifying experience, and I've never felt so violated by something like that.
Don't you think, though, they're playing on that? I mean, they know that was something that was sensitive to you, sensitive nature. If it's the dark, wouldn't it make sense to mess with you and say that they're the ones that are responsible for that because they know it's something that would affect you?
Yeah, and I think that that's also part of it. I've also, even if it's not true, for them, I've never had an entity go so far as to just play a mind game with me like that. Like, it's always been very straightforward. It threw me against the wall. The little boy appeared in the room. Everything was always a very straightforward action. This was a much more psychological thing, and that had never happened to me before.
You were thrown against the wall. Is that the church that you were investigating?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Years ago, and you and I've talked about this before, but we had been provoking back before people even really did that, because we were just a bunch of smart ass kids,
right?
And I had previously told it Jesus could kick its ass in a previous investigation, and it had thrown a book, it threw one of the Bibles across the room in front of six guys. We had stopped back the next time we went there. It was just one of the other guys from the team and me, and he asked me to shine a flashlight on the wall so he could look at some graffiti that had been painted there. And I was standing in front of the stairwell, and something hit me, and I can only explain it as if it felt like it was like a football tackle, like I was being speared, like the pro wrestling spear move. And my friend said when I hit the wall, he's 6'1", 6'2", I hit the wall above his head. And you've seen me, jumping high and backwards very high are not something I physically can do very well. I'm built like Barney Rubble. And when I hit the wall, I blacked out. Like, I don't remember from the time I was hit until I got back to the car. Like, that whole thing is a blur to me. And it changed everything for me.
Fascinating stuff. How can people keep up with you, Jason? What's going on with your projects and everything? Can they see you, or do you have a website? What's a good way to find you?
For right now, you can check me on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Jason Gowan. You can check me at Jason Gowan on Twitter, which is GOWIN. Jason spelled the regular way. I'm on Instagram, same kind of thing. So anywhere there's social media and you can find Jason Gowan, that's where I am.
All right. Well, that's it for this evening. Another edition of Supernatural News and Parashare is done. We'll be back again next Monday when Tim is back in studio live doing this with me. I want to thank you very much, Jason, for sitting in, and we'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow. True Crime Tuesday, Possessed, the infamous Texas stiletto murder, and you're going to hang out with me for the dumb crime, stupid criminal part of the show, right?
Absolutely, and I'm going to wear stilettos.
Excellent. It's a good tie-in. So that's tomorrow night's show. Make sure that you're back with us for that. And remember, I'll be hosting Coast to Coast AM this coming Saturday night, the best in overnight talk radio, and I'd love for you to check it out. Remember, coasttocoastam.com/stations to find stations in your area and times to listen to the show. Or you can always check it out at knsiradio.com. You can live stream Coast to Coast AM from there every Monday through Sunday from midnight till 4 a.m. Central Time. And I will be there Saturday. Tonight, George Norrie is going to be talking about generational cycles and shadow people. That's right. He's got author and expert on shadow people and the Hat Man, Heidi Hollis. And she's going to talk about these menacing and disrupting creatures. That's on Coast to Coast tonight. So go check it out for stations and times in your area. Again, send out good thoughts and prayers to our good friend Tim Dennis. We'll be back tomorrow. You guys asked for it. You're going to get it. True Crime Tuesday returns to Beyond the Darkness.